Under a bright South Florida sun, amidst the swaying palm trees, we bring down the curtain on yet another NASCAR Sprint Cup season. And for the 7th consecutive year, it all happens here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. Champions are those that respond to pressure and rise to the challenge. And there is no better example of that than what transpired in the Phoenix Desert just 1 week ago.
Running this well the last couple of weeks, has maybe made the guys who were chasing a little more nervous, but it doesn't matter how well you're in Texas. That will not make you run better at Phoenix. You have to go do the job.
Hi, bud. Be smooth, be smart here. All right, guys, let's do it. Just too loose, Bob. And 4, buddy. We'll fix you up. Clear one, only one, only one. Go get it together. Boys, you can do better than that. 14 flat is not good. Lap times if you got him. The leader ran a 40 and he's not in traffic. They're not going anywhere, buddy.
You made me happy with that lap. That's good. That's right on pace with the real fast guys right now. You're doing awesome.
Leaving all those guys behind, buddy. 10 to go. 10 laps to go.
And Jimmie Johnson wins for the 7th time this year.
Keep our heads up. Let's work hard. Never know what'll happen next week.
Jimmie Johnson dominated the weekend from pole day to race day, and now with just one race remaining, the margin is a much more comfortable 141 points between him and Carl Edwards. And that means, folks, that Jimmie can finish 36th or better, and he will make history here this weekend at Homestead, just like he has done for the past 2 years in a row. We welcome you to our live coverage of NASCAR Sprint Cup Series practice from Homestead-Miami Speedway. Lots of storylines to follow here in the season finale. The battle for the championship down to the wire. The rookie points, Sam Hornish Jr. and Regan Smith. How about staying in the top 35 in owners points involving a driver swap for the Red Bull team? And chasers winless this season. 7 drivers who won a year ago have yet to win in 2008, including Jeff Gordon. Hard to believe that Jeff has not won. To update those chasers, let's go down to the pits and Jamie Little.
Well, Doc, like you said, it's the final race of the season. So why is winning here so rewarding? Well, you know that old saying, you're only as good as your last race? Well, it doesn't get better than winning here. You go into the off season, 2 months, you get to say, yeah, I won in Homestead. So with that said, all those winless drivers behind me, Jeff Gordon, one of them, he's won at least 2 races every season since 1994. He has yet to win this year, and this is only one of 2 tracks he's never won at. But practice so far, he jumped up to 4th on that last stint. Now over here, Matt Kenseth, he has won a race every season since 2003. This weekend marks a 1-year anniversary since his last win. Of course, he won here in Homestead. So the chase hopes, they're out the window, the championship's out the window, but there's still one more trophy up for grabs, and that's a win here on Sunday. Dave Burns?
Jamie, I want to bring you up to date on the championship leader, Jimmie Johnson's day so far. In a word, what they're looking for is normal. How about 2 words? Routine. Keep it the same way it has been. Jimmie Johnson's only made 1 run in the first half hour of practice. It was a 2-lap run in qualifying trim. He's been talking with his guys ever since, checking with engine tuner Danny Emmerich, checking with his car chief Ron Malik, just talking things over, and even stopping next door to Carl Edwards and talking with Carl about what's going on the racetrack. He also checked the fit of his passenger side window, just trying to keep things normal, walk around the car, do the things they always do, and as if to put a stamp of normalcy on their day. That 1-2 lap run, 2nd quick on the board. They've won the pole 6 times this year. It looks like this weekend, with everything at stake, they might be going for a 7th. Doc?
Dave, they want to do what they did here a year ago by putting this car on the pole and leading the first lap and getting it out of the way here so they can sit back and ride and be able to win a championship as the evening progresses here. Now, there is some late breaking news we're being told from the garage area, so let's go down and get an update here from Marty Smith.
Indeed, there is, Doc. NASCAR informed the Sprint Cup teams this morning that they will ban testing in 2009, and that means that Sprint Cup teams cannot test on any NASCAR-sanctioned track in the top 3 series, Sprint Cup nationwide, and what will be the Camping World Truck Series next year, and that is a huge, unprecedented development. These teams test incessantly to try to gain data for data acquisition to make their race cars better, and they simply won't be able to do that next year on any racetrack that they will be racing on in competition. So huge decision by NASCAR to do away with testing in 09, Doc.
Thanks, Marty. You stay with us. We're going to discuss a moment the impacts that will have in the garage area in terms of economics. Hello, everyone. Along with Dale Jarrett and Andy Petrie, I'm Jerry Punch. Glad to have you with us. And guys, your thoughts now on NASCAR doing away with standardized testing or testing at the NASCAR sanctioned tracks?
Well, if it's a move to save money, I'm sure that's why they're doing this. These teams spend so much money testing every week, and at all these racetracks, they actually even talked about doing more testing until we look at this economic situation and see that maybe no testing is the way to go. The only problem is what I'm hearing is it's just at the sanctioned racetracks. If they don't ban testing all across the board, this could actually end up costing more money because these guys can go out there and build racetracks. So that's what I see. They might do whatever they have to do to test these cars.
Yeah, that's a good concern there, Andy. And I wondered a few weeks ago when they said there would be no changes made to this car for 2009, exactly why that might be, because you always want to tweak here and there, and now I understand a little bit more that they're not going to allow them to test, but I think we should have taken it a little bit further, that not allow them to go out here and build these tracks and test at any of these other places. I assume like Rockingham and some of these places that they're going to be allowed to, so we have to be careful here. It is a cost-saving measure, and I think it's a great idea at this particular time, but let's make sure that they're not out here where these guys that have the money that could go build a racetrack, just as you said, are allowed to go do that. I think we need to put a halt to it all at once.
As an owner, that's what I do. I look for loopholes in any rule that they give you. Okay, this is what we have to deal with. How do we get around it? How do we make the most of it? Well, that's the first thing I think of is build a racetrack. Yeah. That's going to cost more
money. Why don't we ask Marty, who's down there amidst where they're making the announcement and talking to some of the teams. Marty, what about the concern over still being able to go to a Rockingham or a Wilkesboro, and how will this impact the other NASCAR series?
Well, it envelops all three series, Doc, so it is top three series wide. The one thing, in speaking with drivers about it, I've spoken this morning, Jimmy Johnson, Carl Edwards, Kevin Harvick, Jeff Burton, I've spoken with each one of those four gentlemen, and they all say the same thing. It's a great thing for NASCAR to try to cut costs in this economy. Nobody's debating that. The fact of the matter is it could make the haves and have-nots even wider. Jimmy Johnson made it abundantly clear when asked about it, we're going to test. It's not like we're going to stop testing. We're just going to have to figure out, pinpoint exactly where we can test. So that 48 team and the 24 guys and the 88 guys, they're still going to be going all over America trying to find tracks on which they can gain that data. Now, and Dale and Andy can certainly speak to this. One thing that the teams are bringing up is let's put telemetry on the race cars on Friday. Let's come out here, open up the racetracks on Friday, put those data acquisition devices on the race cars on Friday so that they can get some semblance of testing to make their race cars better.
Well, thank you, Marty, for updating us on that. And obviously, that's the first step for NASCAR to try to limit costs, but there still needs some tweaking maybe in the system so people can't get around it and cost more to some of the teams.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea that Marty just brought up there. Let's open it up and let them do a little bit, gain that data that they need on Fridays while we're already at the racetrack, and then have it out of there by Saturday.
Well, keep in mind, though, whatever they do, it's the same for everybody. If they say no testing, no telemetry, same for everybody. I don't think it hurts the competition. It probably helps it.
Well, let's update what's happening on the racetrack here. Tony Stewart, the two-time winner here at Homestead, won the very first two races here on the old configuration, trying to get a win in his final ride in the 10-year relationship he has had with Joe Gibbs Racing.
Yeah, pretty emotional weekend for Tony. I mean, when you've been at a race team for that long, I know whenever I made my switch from Robert Yates Racing a few years ago, that last race, it took me a little bit more than, took me aback a little more than I thought. You know, I thought I had everything handled because it'd been so long, just like Tony's situation. But you realize you're putting relationship and friendships, you know, they're still going to be friends, but all of that's going by the wayside. So pretty big weekend.
Yeah, well, when you talk to Tony here, he talks about how he doesn't want to think about it, because if he thinks about it, he gets just like that, DJ, gets emotional. You know, 33 wins, 2 championships, $71 million in earnings over 10 years for Tony Stewart. But he would tell you, when you talk about these numbers here, what he learned the most was what Joe Gibbs taught him about how to appreciate everybody in the team and treat people the way you want to be treated. Now, with him leaving, the leadership in that team is going to fall to probably this guy here, Kyle Busch. His teammate will have to step up, and Kyle's done a pretty nice job the last few weeks of stepping up and trying to be the mature leader for Joe Gibbs Racing.
Yeah, he is. I talked to Kyle a little while ago down in the garage area, and we were just kind of discussing the season, how great a season he'd had, but, you know, the disappointment of the chase. But he's really kind of put that behind him, and he said, you know, we want to try to win this race this weekend. He said, I'd love to win a nationwide race and get that record. And so, you know, he's got a very positive outlook on things. So kind of a maturity that you wondered, was it going to be there for this young man after such a great start and the finish not what he wanted.
Kyle chasing a win, and here is a driver who is chasing history, Jimmy Johnson. could become only the second driver in NASCAR's 60-year history to win 3 consecutive titles. And coming into Homestead-Miami, where he's done it the last 2 years in a row.
Okay, Jimmy just pulled off pit road. You see him wiggling the car. This is a simulated qualifying run. They're in full qualifying trim, which means they're not out here to make laps for the race and try to find a race setup. They want to run a fast lap and get this pole position, and they've done so well at doing that. Fridays have been really good for this team, actually, as well as every day, but they make the most of this Friday for qualifying only. They don't really work on the race setup here.
Yeah, it was interesting there. His first time out, I watched him go out. He didn't wiggle the car around, so he must have seen something that when he got to turn 3 that first time out, that his car didn't stick. The tires weren't where he wanted it, so he's going to give it a little bit of a try here to see if he can get a better feel.
His fastest lap is a 32.23, and that's second quick. We'll see if he can better that. That's the idea here. They want to go back and make changes and see if they can improve the car. Sometimes it's hard to tell if you've improved it because the tires will fall off a little bit. He almost equaled his fastest lap. He's a couple hundredths off on that lap right there. So I would actually look at, if this is the same set of tires, which it probably is, I would say it's probably a gain.
They came in a year ago with an 86-point lead over Jeff Gordon and did just that. They came out on Friday and had it just set for tilt to put the car on the pole and lead at the first lap here to get those 5 bonus points here.
More physical center than anything. It did improve the grip laid up off and that feeling of rear steer in the car, but I still had some of it. The biggest difference was center of the corner.
Yeah, that's good stuff right there. They did improve the car, and with this, we heard this is the same set of tires, so I would say that's a gain. If you can equal your fastest lap with tires that have a few laps on them, that's a gain.
It has only happened once in NASCAR history, and it was 30 years ago when Cale Yarborough out of Timminsville, South Carolina, won 28 times, 3 consecutive titles, and those are the comparison numbers, 2 of the all-time greats in NASCAR history. Very busy motorsports calendar headed your way this weekend, beginning with NASCAR Sprint Cup qualifying later today at 3 o'clock Eastern time from here at Homestead-Miami. NASCAR Sprint Cup happy hour tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and then the season finale for the NASCAR Nationwide Series. Tight points race there. Clint Boyer 56 points ahead of Carl Edwards. NHRA action, ESPN2 tomorrow at 11 Eastern time. NASCAR Now will kick it off on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. And then we bring down the curtain for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, the Ford 400 at Homestead-Miami, 3 o'clock Eastern time, live on ABC, beginning with NASCAR Countdown. Alan Bestwick, Brad Doherty, Rusty Wallace, and Ray Evernham. Here is a driver who has a lot on his plate this weekend, Robbie Gordon. Right now, he is the fastest car in practice, and he is on a mission. He's got to keep this car in the top 35 in the owner's points.
Looks like he's coming down here loaded for bear. He's got that thing flying. That's a pretty good lap, 32.08.
Now, here are the owner's points, and you see that guys at 35th, that's the cutoff to be able to get the automatic qualifying spot for next year for the first 5 events. Robbie is 47 points up, you see, from the margin there back to the 84 car.
Basically a 3-car race for that spot there. Actually, just one of those are not going to be in the top 35, so trying not to be the one to fall out.
Yeah, it'll be a heated race on Sunday, and trying to keep up with all of that, and those guys all racing hard. Good lap here and good start for Robbie Gordon so far. He needs some good things to happen.
Given the fact that he doesn't have a multi-car team and trying to do it all alone with his own operation, this could be huge for him for what would bode forward in 2009. Well, here's the championship chaser with Jimmy Johnson, the chasee. Carl Edwards has done about everything he can do here the last few weeks, including winning back-to-back on mile-and-a-half tracks at Atlanta and Texas.
He really has. We talked to him earlier, and he said that 4th place finish, besides the 2 bad races he had at Talladega and Charlotte where his motor cut off, that's the worst he's had in the chase, is a fourth place finish. So he's done a really great job on the racetrack.
You know, he said it's going to take one heck of a Hail Mary this weekend to get it done, and you got to hope that Jimmy Johnson's guys have some issues or shoot themselves in the foot. But he said, this is my Hail Mary car. Remember the last time he ran this car? The final lap at Kansas Speedway, where he just drove the throttle and went all the way underneath Jimmy and bounced it off the wall to finish second. So he couldn't have brought a better car to Homestead.
Well, he has to win. I mean, he can't go out here and run the top 5. He has to win and then hope for a miracle. But he's got to win first.
That's exactly what he said yesterday at the press conference. He said, the worst thing would be if Jimmy goes out and has a problem, opens the door for us, and we can't do our part of the deal. It said, you know, that would be the worst thing that could possibly happen. He said, so we have to go there prepared ourselves. Everybody talks about what Jimmy's got to do. Well, we have to go win that race and be in position if something should happen.
We talk about what a fabulous year Jimmy Johnson has had in NASCAR Sprint Cup, but you think about Carl Edwards, who has run full-time in both the NASCAR Nationwide and Sprint Cup. Look, 14 combined wins. Look at the races he has run this year. 69 total events, and he is in position to possibly win both championships.
You know, we had Carl last week as our in-race reporter, and I had a lot of questions that I wanted to get to, and he was so gracious to answer everything that we threw at him. But I would have liked to, as he moves up to second on the speed chart right now, I would have liked to ask him his level, his mental preparation week in and week out to go back and forth with these race cars and have them and be in position in both series to win these championships. Just incredible. We talk about how physically demanding it is and how good he is there, but the mental aspect of it is just amazing to me, and that's why I really appreciate something that Carl Edwards is doing here.
Carl heads back to the garage area in the 5 car. Casey Mears, there is the 5 car. His last ride for Hendrick Motorsports, and he goes right to the top of the speed charts here in this practice session. 31 in the garage. Jeff Burton down there trying to get this car dialed in. One of the guys doing double duty for the weekend. Dave.
I'm the guy doing double duty? Yes, I will. I'll do both races, Doc, as a matter of fact. No, I know Jeff Burton's going to run the NASCAR Nationwide Series as well. And I want to talk philosophy with you, Andy Petrie. You ready? Philosophy.
Yes, sir. Let's go, Dave.
No, the practice philosophy. This is the practice before qualifying. And so we saw Jimmy Johnson and Carl Edwards going out in that qualifying trim. The Richard Childress cars, all 3 of them, Jeff Burton, Kevin Harvick, and Clint Boyer, running 4th, 5th, and 6th in the championship, have all gone out in race trim to begin with. They've taken between 12 and 25 laps between them, and now they're switching to qualifying trim. Which philosophy do you prefer, sir?
Well, Dave, you know what? It depends on what you've got. You've got Jeff Burton and Kevin Harvick and those guys, and Boyer. They are concentrating on the race, and probably because even if they did concentrate on qualifying, they may not be able to qualify up as high as they want to. So let's put our emphasis on where we excel. Let's put it on the race and see if that doesn't pay off more. Now, for Jimmy Johnson's bunch, they'll practice qualifying because they know they have a good shot at that pole. So they put it all into that and try to get it and get that pit pick.
And this car, DJ, going out for a mock qualifying run. And, folks, that is not a misidentification. The 84 car this weekend is Brian Vickers, and they have made a driver swap, Jamie, to help the top 35 owner situation here.
What a team player Brian Vickers is being. This team, the 84, just 17 points out of that coveted top 35. Of course, Scott Speed has been running that car the last few weeks. We've seen Mike Skinner behind the wheel, A.J. Allmendinger, of course. But Brian Vickers stepped up to the plate and said, I'll go for it, guys. I'll try to put in the best run that I can and get you guys back in the top 35. He's done a great job with his 83 team. They're in the top 20, so Scott Speed will be in that car this weekend. But Brian Vickers, of course, you guys, we talk about the top 35 because it guarantees this team in the first 5 races of next year, including the Daytona 500. So a lot on the line. Brian Vickers, of course, this is the same team, same chassis. They just basically swap numbers right now at 12. Or he just jumped up to 4th, guys. This is his 2nd time out.
DJ, pretty smart move here because Brian Vickers has never qualified out of the top 20 here.
Yeah, but, you know, it is still pressure on Brian to go out there and get this car in the field a lot more than what he would have been feeling today if he were in his 83 car, which is locked in the field. So nice that Brian would do this and help him. I hope they haven't waited too long to make this move, and nothing against Scott Speed. He's coming in trying to learn, but he put Brian in a very tough position, but a lot of talent, and I'm sure that he's ready for the challenge. It kind of gives him something to come here and battle for, really, you might say, to get out there in another race. Besides just trying to win a race, he's trying to help his teammates.
Shows me what a team player he is, because he could not be in this race. If something happens qualifying, he wouldn't be able to be in the race, and he's in the top 20 in driver points. So that's a team player for you.
He has certainly moved up the speed charts. Here's the guy they're chasing right now. Casey Mears trying to get one more win for Hendrick Motorsports in his final ride in the 5 car. Here's the top 10 in this session thus far. Biffle, a 3-time Homestead winner. There's Brian Vickers all the way up to 4th place. Robbie Gordon still in the top 5. Teammates conferring here in the garage area at Homestead-Miami Speedway. The Roush Fenway boys. Carl Edwards talking to Greg Biffle, who has won 3 times. Edwards has yet to win here. How about a couple of Joe Gibbs teammates for the final weekend anyway? Tony Stewart and Kyle Busch discussing the setup. Front row Joe Nemechek Talking with Casey Mears, Joe, who formerly drove for Hendrick Motorsports a few years back.
He also still gets engines from Hendrick Motorsports for this team. Or they did for a while.
Cut back next season, Furniture Road, that they were going to do some different things next year, a limited schedule.
Martin Truex Jr., who had been the fastest car in this session early on, and of course the DEI car is the subject of a bit of news this weekend. They noted a merger between Dale Earnhardt Incorporated and Ganassi. Chip Ganassi with Felix Sabates Racing there merged to form Earnhardt Ganassi Racing in 2009, a 4-car team. Martin Truex Jr. right here will be one of the drivers. Eric Almirola in the 8 car, Juan Pablo Montoya in the 42, and a driver to be named later in the 41 car. So some mergers taking place here. A lot of news here this final week of the NASCAR season.
Here comes a guy that's been hot lately. Is Jamie McMurray. He's had a really good car over the last few weeks.
Back-to-back third-place finishes. And what's Rusty say? He got on his knee and proposed to his longtime fiance last week. Now he's going to go in debts. He's got to drive hard.
That'll get you going.
Yeah, they're going to make a swap, crew chief wise, and you know, it's just amazing. They look like they're getting things going, and all of a sudden they're going to make a change. Dave?
And DJ, this is another weekend where they're getting things going. Jamie reported after 25 minutes of practice with that car, really good, and he emphasized the really part of that. He said it was a lot better than where we unloaded, and that's what you'd like to see as he moves up to 4th in qualifying trim. Meanwhile, the first qualifying run for Clint Boyer in the 07 car. DJ, I want to get your interpretation of this from Clint Boyer. Walking it up off the corner. It was a good lap, but he said I just had to walk it up off the corner. What does he mean by that?
Yeah, I think he's chasing the back end. He's having to steer the front to keep up with the back. So he's just having to use up more racetrack than what he wants to coming out of the corner because he's having to chase the back end of the car. A little bit loose, it sounds like.
Here's a 6 car of David Reagan, and he may be one of the more pleasant surprises this year, solidly finishing 13th in the points and came so close to making the chase in only his 2nd full year as a NASCAR Sprint Cup driver. They have really turned up the wick here in the second half of the year. You see the top 15, top 10 finishes.
That average finish is a lot better in the second half. I'll be surprised if this car doesn't make the chase next year. Dave's done a great job in it.
He really has. And you know, of course, they have the UPS sponsorship coming over there with them, but very impressive by David Reagan all year. And I think that seeing that in the second half of the season just shows even more maturity. Put that together with his talent, and going to have a really good race driver here in the very near future.
We mentioned the rookie battle to be decided this weekend between Regan Smith and Sam Hornish. Just 3 points separating Sam and Regan. Sam had been the highest finishing rookie 4 races in a row until Regan finished in the top 25 at Phoenix last week. And so it'll all come down to one final race here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. Sam has had pretty good history here in the IndyCar, but would like to be able to duplicate it. No comparison at all to running IndyCar and running a heavy stock car.
He could run that Indy car flat out around here, get some serious speed. I think they're over 230 miles an hour at this racetrack.
Yeah, and when asked Andy if he was wanted to go back and run IndyCar racing, he said, no, I love it being right here. I want to be a part. I want to make my career and my future here in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Now, he had some adventures last week, though, in Phoenix, particularly in the early going. Some contact here. He slid up the racetrack and got the 19 car.
Just got in there a little bit hot, got loose, and got into Elliott Sadler. And you see he gets his car banged up just a little bit. Then they come down the pit road here to try to get some tires, and whoops, got spun around by Casey Kane.
Still managed a 33rd place finish despite losing those laps and being some 5 laps down.
The good thing is he's got a lot wider racetrack this week, so he can use up a lot more of that. But he's done a really good job. First year coming over, trying to make this transition into these race cars. You know, we'll see a marked improvement next year when he goes back to these tracks.
Well, he's a proven winner, and it's just a matter of time before he shows that here.
Carl Edwards' crew getting his car dialed in here in practice at Homestead-Miami Speedway. Carl is the chaser, and here's the chasee, Jimmy Johnson. 141 points up, and right now Jimmy Johnson trying to get his car in pole trim. Back with more in a moment. The 2008 chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup reaches a conclusion here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. We will crown a champion, and we invite you to join us Sunday at 3 o'clock Eastern Time live on ABC, beginning with NASCAR Countdown. Alan Bestwick, Brad Daugherty, Rusty Wallace, and four-time championship crew chief Ray Evernham will set the stage, and we'll see if this guy can get it done from 141 points behind.
Got a new set of tires on right now, trying to see if he can better his best time, which is in the top 10. He's 8th. He doesn't want to be 8th. He wants to be 1st.
Yeah, these guys are all starting to get serious now, throwing sticker tires on here. Looks like what we've seen so far, that first lap is going to be the quicker lap.
Yeah, it looks like the tires fall off pretty quickly. This racetrack is losing a little bit of grip as it ages, which is a good thing, but it does make it where the tires are really only good for that first lap or two. You got more, Jamie?
Yeah, guys, Carl Edwards, of course, wants to be top of the charts all weekend long. So competitive. He waited a couple minutes to go out on the track this morning when this practice session began, and the first thing over the radio that he said was, all right, guys, tell me where they're running and who is fastest. So he's talking to his spotter right now, asking again about the lines. So now he just jumped up in the #1 spot, guys. That's what it's all about. It's about driver confidence. And Carl Edwards this morning in his media scrum, he was talking about running here at Miami. He said, I can't think of a better track to go to for the season finale. It just suits my driving style, the way we set up our car, our engines. This is the best place to go up for the championship.
You can see both crew chiefs right there in that shot. They're on separate trucks. You can see Chad on his truck, and Bob Osborne is on his. And Jimmy Johnson is getting ready to go back out. He's already been bumped down to the 20th fastest, but he's yet to make a sticker run like we just saw Carl do. He picked up all the way from 8th spot to the #1.
And here's one of the guys we talked about at the top of our show. Hard to believe that Jeff Gordon has not won a race in 2008. A 14-year winning streak on the line here in the season finale.
He makes a nice little jump up to 10th from 24th. With all the success he's had, and all the success that Hendrick has had, you know, it's also hard to believe that neither Hendrick Motorsports or Richard Childress Racing, either one of those legendary teams, have ever won a Sprint Cup race at this racetrack. Well, one time, I think we talked about this, and Dale says, well, one reason that Jimmy Johnson hasn't won one down here is because he didn't have to. That's right. Yeah, he always comes in here with a nice lead.
There's Jimmy. He's got he's got sticker tires on that.
These guys are all waiting for their chance to go out here and try to be on the racetrack by themselves. You can see they're really polite about it. They'll just wait, get an opening on the racetrack, and now you see Brad Keselowski pulling off. And now Matt Kenseth will wait for his turn. His spotter, he's got a spotter on the roof that's going to tell him when he's got a good hole, tells him when to go, and there was a big hole there, so you saw 2 cars actually coming off the pit road on the track. Andy, you mentioned Brad Keselowski. Here's this 24-year-old driver who's 3rd in the NASCAR Nationwide Series points with 2 wins this year. Now making his 2nd start here in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, coming off a pretty impressive run at Texas.
Did a great job at Texas. He was just very solid all day long, and just, you know, ran the entire race, the 500 miles there, and was just very impressive. Had a great day. So I think that
what impressed me is it didn't start out great.
Yeah.
He just really worked at it and stayed in there and made a really good day out of something that didn't look like it was going to be that great to start with.
Yeah, we commented he missed probably 4 or 5 good chances to wreck and didn't all day long.
Yeah, he had the right side of it scraped off, but he did a tremendous job in finishing that day out.
He will be one of 13 drivers doing double duty, running in the NASCAR Nationwide Series race tomorrow at 4 o'clock. And, of course, in Sunday's NASCAR Sprint Cup Series season finale.
We talked earlier about the RCR cars. They were out there working on race setup, but now they've jumped into qualifying setup, and Jeff Burton's in 5th and Kevin Harvick 6th. So their qualifying deal must be pretty decent.
Well, there's your answer. Maybe they thought they could get a better setup in race trim, and some drivers you talk to really like to get out there and drive a few laps, more than just a couple, to try to get a feel for the race car and see what they really need. Some guys can just go out like Mark Martin, Jimmy Johnson, and go out there the very first lap and lay it down and not really need those laps. But some guys need that just to kind of tune their car. There goes Jimmy Johnson on a set of stickers. He had moved down to 23rd on the speed charts, and we'll see if he can rectify that with these brand new Goodyear tires.
You see him wiggling the car back and forth, trying to get A little bit of heat in them, but more than that, just kind of getting that newness off of them where he could get some grip right here into turn 3. This is very important right here, getting up to speed.
See Rick Hendrick right there in the garage area. Right alongside these guys on Friday.
What a phenomenal career he has had as a car owner, going for his 8th championship. Second only to Petty Enterprises that has 10.
Jimmy Johnson has to beat a 31.71 to top Carl Edwards' fast lap, who's on top of the board right now. That's 170.26 miles an hour.
Juan Montoya is in second at a 31.81, so just a 10th behind Carl Edwards. See what Jimmy's got here. Right to the top.
There he goes. And he does it by 100th of a second. He heard me say what he needed to run.
That's right.
We'll have Dave Burns go tell Carl Edwards that Jimmy Johnson is now faster than him in practice. Back with more coverage from Homestead in just a moment.
You're learning all the time. It's not like people think you just go out there and run for 500 miles or something like that. You got to try to outsmart the guy and outfox him some way or another.
No one better to explain how to outfox him than the Silver Fox himself, David Pearson. And here are two of the smartest guys in the garage area discussing setup.
Hard to outfox this bunch, I can tell you that. They got it going on.
The guy that's got to try to beat him, Carl Edwards, currently third on the speed charts behind Jimmy Johnson, the guy he's chasing in points. And just a moment ago, David Rudiman going to the top of the list.
The press conference yesterday where Carl and Jimmy were, it was really nice to see the admiration and respect that the guys had for each other in battling for this championship. So it was really nice to see that.
There have been 9 races at Homestead-Miami Speedway and 6 different winners. Tony Stewart and Greg Biffle, the only multiple winners. Biffle has been very good here 3 years in a row. In fact, Roush Fenway has won 4 years in a row, and 5 of the last 6 years they have come here.
This guy should have 2 wins at this racetrack. Blew a right rear tire on the white flag in one of the races here, I remember, and Bobby Labonte took home the win, but he had a great car that day.
That was in 2003. He also became one of only 2 drivers to win from the pole here. Bill Elliott sat on the pole in a Dodge in 2001 for Gillette Evernham. And some news about him maybe running again part-time in 2009 for the Wood Brothers team.
Yeah, they're looking at a partial schedule right now with the sponsorship monies that they have. And they're trying to decide exactly what they're going to do and how Bill might fit into that equation for them.
Talked to Lynn Wood this morning down in the garage area. They've got Motorcraft and Ford coming on for 2009, but they need a little more to run the full year. Of course, Bill Elliott, when you got someone like Bill, Awesome Bill, a 16-time most popular driver available to you and a former champion. But they're also looking at some other veteran drivers. He gave me a list of about 20 drivers, all of which have experience and are going to be available after this race here on Sunday.
Bill's done a great job in this car, though. They've had some good finishes, some good runs, and Bill has really not had to use that champion's provisional, which is something he's had to fall back on, but he's only used it a couple of times.
Was your name on that list, Andy?
I'm sure it was. I might have to be up on the list.
2001 victory. We talked about the Gillette Evernham cars battling side by side. Jeremy Mayfield gets past, and Awesome Bill wins it from the pole here at Homestead-Miami. Great memories of Bill's win here. That was a very popular win here among the fans.
Every time Bill wins is popular. He's one of the most popular guys on the track.
Let's update the progress of Jimmy Johnson. We head back down to Dave Burns.
I'm just going to tell you guys, I kind of enjoy this pre-qualifying practice. You know, you got a little machismo, a little competition, a little bravado going on down here. You got Rudiman now in the top spot. Carl has held it. Jimmy has battled back and taken that back. But the question is, where do you draw the line? Now, Jimmy said this week himself, I don't want to do anything stupid this weekend. That means race strategy. That means him driving on the track. How close can you come, DJ, to wanting to be that top guy in practice? It's just practice after all, and not push the limit.
Well, unlike Allen Iverson, these guys really believe in practice that they can make each other better, and these guys take this serious. They come here knowing with a game plan that they want to be the fastest. They want everybody looking at them all the time that, hey, if you're going to come here and either try to outrun us this weekend or try to win a championship from us, this is what you're going to have to do. So Jimmy's going to push it. He has a lot of confidence in his abilities and in the race car that Chad give him. So he doesn't mind going out there and pushing it. You know, if something should happen, they got another great race car sitting on that truck.
He knows where the limit is. That's the thing. They are so good at this, and he knows how close he can come to that limit. And they print a sheet after these practice sessions, and they want their car and their number on the top of it, just like we see here.
A lot more at stake just than winning a championship. You look at the top 12 in points, just 32 points separates 8th from 12th. And you see Denny Hamlin back in 9th spot. That 5th place finish last week at Phoenix gained him 3 positions in the standings. Let's update his progress with Jamie Little.
Doc, in post-race last weekend, Denny Hamlin, the first guy to say how important it is to be in the top 10. Why? Because only the top 10 teams get to go celebrate at the banquet in New York. If you finish 11th or 12th, too bad, you're out. You don't get to go to New York. So Denny definitely voicing his opinion about the importance of making it. He missed it last year, and he knew how bad he missed it. Now, Dale Jr., just to the right of him in the garage, he too is battling to stay in that top 10. There's a bunch of drivers, as you said, the points really close, trying to beat them out of the top 10. Now, Denny Hamlin, he's only 25th on the board right now. He did do a mock qualifying run. It wasn't good enough. It wasn't their satisfaction. They made a right front spring change, and they're going to go out and try it again, try to jump up on that pit board, guys.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. just trying to hang on to that 10th spot. He has got just 7 points in front of Kyle Busch and 21 points in front of Tony Stewart.
Yeah, right now, Penske gang's going to the top of the charts here. Ryan Newman first, Kurt Busch second.
That new Penske Dodge R6 P8 engine getting it done. Remember, Kurt Busch finished second last week at Phoenix. Practice speeds here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. We began the year with the Penske Dodges 1-2 in the Daytona 500. They're 1-2 here in the practice session for the season finale. Ryan Newman and Kurt Busch. Rudeman third. There's Jimmy Johnson, who's gone back out again and moved in front of Carl Edwards. Let's see what Jimmy can do.
Got a little sun in this turn 1 and 2 now.
Yeah, that's a little higher up the racetrack than what Jimmy has been running in that corner. That could have a lot to do with it. A lot less grip down there with that sun that's come out.
See, now he's going down into the shade over here in 3 and 4.
He's got a good run off of this corner. Trying to improve on a 3170.
3187 there, bud.
Just a little bit slower.
I got into one too hard on you guys. Sorry about that. Just got way tight. I think we can still be freer down there, though.
These guys just don't want to win the championship. They want to take it away. They want to be the guys, the car on the pole. They want to lead laps. And you got to admire that kind of approach.
Well, you know what? They probably don't want to share the victory celebration after the race with anybody else. They just want to be the only ones doing anybody celebrating. So they win the race and championship. That's all theirs.
Kevin Harvick pulling off the racetrack as not one of the drivers that hasn't won here. His best finished second in 2003.
Yeah, he's 7th right now at 3177. Good lap for him.
Well, let's see what the psychological warfare works out here with the Roush Fenway car of Carl Edwards. Can he go out and top Jimmy Johnson now?
I'm told that he's out here on scuffs. It'll be interesting to see how those treat him. Most of these guys have been on stickers.
How about Montoya there on the top of the board? 3152. That's a great lap.
Wow. He's running a different line, even in qualifying type trim. Carl slowed down about a 10th from his fastest lap right there. I would say they'll probably go back to the sticker tires.
Why don't we visit with a 3-time Homestead winner who is 3rd in the point standings? Dave.
Trying to find the magic again this year. 3rd in the championship this year as well. Greg took a couple of qualifying runs. You didn't top the board there. What's going on with your car?
Well, we got a pretty good car. I just thought I'd try the top on that last lap. Some guys are running up higher on the track and getting a lot more speed, so we tried to run the top down there. I just got too tight coming off, had to get out of the gas, but I think we're going to be able to run close to the top of the board. We'll just have to wait and see. We got a fairly good draw, so wait
That's your guys. By the way, winning 3 in a row and then not winning last year, you excited to come back and try to get back on the podium?
Yeah, I really am. I love this place, and I think you walk down here in the garage and poll these guys on how this thing drives, how this racetrack is. It's an awesome place. We need to make more racetracks like this, progressive banking, and we'll hopefully get back in victory lane.
All right, thanks, Greg. Doc?
Greg Biffle has been by far the best driver at Homestead-Miami Speedway. We mentioned the 3 wins in a row, and he stubbed his toe a little bit last year, but Roush Fenway has won 4 in a row. Biffle, he is eliminated from championship contention, but would love to finish the year by picking up his 3rd win in 2008. We invite you to join us Sunday at 3 o'clock Eastern Time for the Ford 400 at Homestead-Miami Speedway. It is the 10th and final race in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. We will crown a champion, and we might see history made here for only the 2nd time in the 60-year existence of NASCAR. The 2 contenders in the chase have been very good. Jimmie Johnson has won 3 times. Carl Edwards has one more top 5 finish, but it's all about leading laps and winning races and all those bonus points. And right now the margin 141 points for Jimmie Johnson over Carl Edwards with 1 race to go. We mentioned only the 2nd start in his career in NASCAR Sprint Cup for Brad Keselowski, and he's had a bit of an issue here in this session.
Yeah, going through turns 3 and 4, a little bit high on the racetrack, trying to get some speed. You see the back end kick out and into the wall. Hard contact right here at the end of practice. I'm not sure they can fix that.
He's hit pretty hard. They may be able to fix it. This car takes a licking now. This new car, it'll take a pretty good lick.
Let's update some final stories in the garage area in the Home Depot area. Jamie Little.
Well, Doc, Tony Stewart sits 10th on the board right now. You know, earlier you mentioned this is his last run with this Home Depot Joe Gibbs Racing team, and it's kind of a commemorative car. If you see on his hood there's little decals. Every decal represents one of the victories in the Sprint Cup Series that Tony Stewart has had with this team. 33 to be exact. Along the side, you see thanks Smoke for 10 great years. And inside, to the right of his steering column, there's one more decal. It says, go get it. I asked the team what it is, and they said that will be for our victory here on Sunday. Our last win together. They're hoping to make it 3 here at Miami Homestead. Something to watch for from the 20 team. Dave?
And Jamie, trying to make it 1 here at the Miami Homestead Speedway is this Germain Racing number 13 car. Randy Goss is the crew chief for that car this weekend, and Max Pappas is the driver. So far, they're 36 on the speed chart. They will have to qualify in on their qualifying speed, but good chance for these guys to make the show.
Max Pappas, one of the drivers who will have to get in on time and speed, along with Sterling Marlin, A.J. Allmendinger, of course, awesome Bill Elliott, who will have a previous champion's provisional. Brad Keselowski, who just damaged his car a moment ago. Eddie Enterprises driver Chad McCumbee, along with Rains Hornish, the reigning Rookie of the Year contender, Nemechek, Brian Vickers. Remember the driver change there. He's in the 84 this week in place of Scott Speed and Ken Schrader. Now, among these drivers, it is Sam Hornish right now who is fastest of the go-or-go-home drivers in terms of time and speed. Here's the guy who wants to go home this weekend as a 3-time Cup champion, Jimmie Johnson. He wants to get it done by doing what he did a year ago. It's put this car on the pole and lead the very first lap of the race.
We've got just a few minutes left here to try to improve his car. Not faster on that lap.
No, but that's a little quicker, and it's the same tires he was out the last time. So he'd run at a 31.87. He ran 31.82 there. So probably a little bit of improvement to the car.
He's going to have a good shot at the pole.
Yeah, we got some dodges up there, though, in those first 3 spots with Montoya, Newman, and Kurt Busch. And David Rudiman in the 4th spot.
Everybody was pointing the finger at Dodge for not getting it done to get that new engine launched, and certainly now in the last few weeks since they launched it at Kansas, it has certainly gotten the job done. And there's Juan Pablo Montoya, Ryan Newman, and Kurt Busch, 3 Dodges at the top of the speed chart. So a pat on the back to Dodge finally getting the R6 P8 engine on the track, and it is paying dividends. But here's the guy who hopes the big payoff comes on Sunday. He has won back-to-back NASCAR Sprint Cup titles. And if he can do it again this year, he will have his own page in the NASCAR history books. Over $47 million he will have earned in the last 3 years of NASCAR Sprint Cup racing. Folks, that is a championship performance by the 48 team Hendrick Motorsports and one Jimmy Johnson. We invite you to join us later today for qualifying at 3 o'clock Eastern Time live from Homestead-Miami Speedway. Coming up next is E60. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.